South African banks are warning of a funding shortfall of more than 900 billion rand if they're forced to adopt the Basel III liquidity rules. It's estimated that the implementation of the rules could result in a 75 basis point increase in lending rates and a 1.1% slash in economic output. And joining us for a closer look at the cost of Basel III on South Africa's banks is Marilyn Ramplin of Ramplin Capital. Marilyn, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Well, in May we heard that, South Africa's banks are warning of this funding shortfall of more than, as I said, 900 billion rand if they're forced to adopt Basel III liquidity rules in their existing form. At that point, it seemed like a distant reality, but January is now around the corner. Are we ready? Where do we stand?
Thank you very much, Alicia. I think for a lot of banks, this is really at the top of their agenda. And just to put it into context a little bit, so Basel III, or Basel, really applies to banks only. So it's really the banking sector that will be most affected by what we have to deal with from a Basel III point of view. And Basel III really comes from the fallout that we experienced during 2008. So 2008 really showed us that in the banking sector, especially with some of the failures that we've seen, the issues we had around Lehman, the issues we had around Bear Stearns, that there were some real issues in the system. So Basel III was really created as a way of trying to address some of those issues. So Basel III looks at capital adequacy, holding not just more capital, but better quality capital. Looking at liquidity. I mean, if you look at the issues that we faced around Bear Stearns, it was really about liquidity. So Basel III is about holding more liquidity, but also holding more liquidity under stressed scenarios.
Yeah, it's of course come into being to mitigate against that risk, and that merit is undeniable. No one can actually fight against it. But how are you rating the ability of South Africa's banks to actually survive this now, and the ability to meet the proposed liquidity ratios?
You know what, it's really tough, and everyone is really struggling out there. So what you find is happening at the moment, especially with the larger banks, everyone is now reviewing their businesses in terms of the cost of capital, the cost of how much we have to reserve against the activities in our banks. And some banks are having to make really difficult decisions. So if you look at two of the major banks in South Africa, where they've actually had to close down their proprietary trading businesses because of the cost of Basel III and the capital. And those type of activities and those type of scenarios where you have to make really drastic decisions around the business model will have a real impact in terms of the return on your equity in your business. So now you need to look at how can you use your capital to re-employ it in the business elsewhere. So what you find the banks are doing is everyone is sort of looking at because what Basel III is saying is that from a liquidity point, if we just take the liquidity issue, from a liquidity point of view, you now need to hold more liquid assets. And that means more cash. Everyone is looking out for more cash. So if you take Basel III and you combine Basel III with some of the other regulations that we have, like the G20 commitment that we've made, that South Africa is part of the G20, we've made a commitment in 2009 that says that we will work on some of the risks that were identified from the 2008 fallout. And some of those risks include looking at OTC derivatives, looking at capital requirements. So if you take that and you combine that with Basel III, you will find that Basel III is now really putting a lot of banks under pressure. So everyone is out looking for cash, looking for more liquidity. That means that functions in the bank like collateral management, collateral has now become a key focus for the banks, because we all have obligations that we need to meet with our counterparties, and often that means having to come up with cash to meet those obligations. So if you combine that with the G20 requirements and you look at, for example, what's called the central counterparty clearing model we need to come up with, and the requirement for a default fund under that, there is a real liquidity squeeze on the whole of the banking sector in terms of where are we going to get the additional cash from in order to be able to meet the required ratios and requirements from a Basel III perspective.
While that liquidity squeeze is being exerted, as you say, across the banking sector, I mean, to what extent was it a surprise for you that after our banks, 7 went under, the liquidity stress tests over an 18-month period, we had the 2 smaller lenders, the likes of your Capitec and Able, actually passing, while Standard Bank, Absa, FirstRand, Nedbank and Investec only met 68% of that liquidity coverage ratio.
You see, the liquidity coverage ratio is also very much a function of your activities that you have in the bank, in terms of what kind of risk do you take, what kind of activities do you engage in. So you have to look at the type of risks that the banks are taking versus the requirements. So it's very much weighted in terms of the level of risk that they take on board.
So the kind of business they're actually, involved in, and that putting emphasis on the mismatch the big banks have highlighted in their funding cycles. So let's highlight that, because the big banks relies heavily on those volatile and short-term funding as opposed to stable resources such as retail savings to finance long-term businesses such as mortgages, and perhaps that not as apparent in the likes of Capitec and Able if you look at how they're lending and to who they're lending.
Absolutely. And one of the real arguments against Basel III is the fact that when you look at Basel III from a European point of view, a lot of the European banks have very large retail client, large retail client base. And even if you go back to the crisis, you will find that the banks who didn't have that large retail client base, they were really the ones who struggled from a liquidity point of view, because they didn't have access to that savings base. So, in South Africa, we have a very finite retail market. There are only so many retail customers that you can go after. And, in a way, I think there will be some competition to try and get on board more retail clients, because it does provide you with liquidity, liquidity that you can then add to the funding pot, which helps you with the ratios. But it's a very finite number, and that is one of the arguments that we have from a South African point of view, saying that we have a very small retail base versus a European point of view.
In that context, we've had the SARB set up this multi-billion rand emergency fund, 240 billion rand facility to help the big 5 banks. Just how secure a safety net are we looking at there?
We have to accept that when the SARB is providing liquidity, when they provide liquidity to help the banks out, so what they're saying is that in a stress scenario, if the banks need access to liquidity, they have the facility available. But even in that scenario, the SARB will not lend you money without collateral. Okay, so we come back to this point of collateral. So collateral is really at the bottom and at the heart of what we're dealing with from a Basel III point of view for a lot of the banks. So what we need to look at is what form of collateral will the SARB accept as eligible collateral against the liquidity. So the Europeans and the Americans during the crisis had to go down a path of actually reducing the quality of the collateral that they were prepared to accept from the banks in order to make this facility available. And you can understand it from the SARB's point of view, it's their way of managing their own risk. Okay? It's the sovereign risk of South Africa. You want to make sure that we manage that. So in the interest of SA Inc., we need to get that right, both from the bank's point of view, but also from the market's point of view, from a systemic point of view. So I think the eligible collateral that we're allowed to post will be very interesting to understand how the banks could then get access to that form of liquidity. Because in a stress scenario, you don't really have the high quality collateral that everyone's looking for. So, for me, Basel III for the banks is really collateral is at the heart of it. So you don't have cash, you want to get access to cash, you don't have high quality assets, now you need to be able to get access to that. And that's why within the banks today, you find that a lot of them are working on what's called collateral optimization models. And it's sort of at the heart of what the banks are looking at. How do we fund our businesses? How do we make sure that we don't use all our cash to meet our obligations with our counterparties?
Certainly that's a question that a broader South Africa Incorporated is going to be asking as well, how we fund our businesses moving forward. Marilyn, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for having joined us this morning. Marilyn Ramplin is CEO of Ramplin Capital.